Good day. My name is Brett Ledouche, and I'm the author of the book Pensions for Palookas. You can buy my book at www.pensionsforpalookas.online, or you can purchase the book from Amazon, Smashwords, or Takealot. Today, I'm going to give a brief summary of chapter 6 of my book. Is my money safe in my retirement fund? A lot of members worry that if something goes wrong with the fund or the management of the fund, I will lose all my money. Um, the purpose of this video is to give you an idea of the regulatory as well as the legislative framework that underpins our retirement fund industry and that makes it very safe for you to invest your money in your retirement fund. So, as I said, there are two components. The one is legislation or the laws of the land, and the other one is regulation or entities that are created by certain laws that will regulate the industry and how, for example, a pension or provident fund is managed, how the money within that fund is managed and invested, and also all the players, role players that are in the industry, how they work. So, if you put these two together that overlap, it will create this area here that is basically your safety net as a member of a pension or provident fund. So the first piece of legislation that protects you as a member is the Pension Funds Act. So what does the Pension Funds Act do? It creates the regulatory framework for pension funds and provident funds and how they are managed. Firstly, it states that the fund is a separate legal entity. So each pension fund can sue in its own name or it can be sued in its own name. So it's a legal entity that is firstly separate from the employer that participates in the fund. So the assets of the pension fund is kept separately from the assets of the participating employers to the benefit and protection of the members of that fund. Secondly, all funds must register with the relevant authority, and I'll come to that authority later. Thirdly, all funds must have a set of rules. And what must be in those rules? Firstly, what are your rights as a member? What are the responsibilities of those in charge of the fund? Uh, so all those things are put out, and what are the limitations on your rights in terms of the rules of that fund? Fourthly, it states that each fund must be managed by a board of trustees. So normally an independent board of trustees will manage the fund, and one of the requirements is also that the members of the fund must have the right to elect the majority of those trustees of that pension fund or provident fund. Fifthly, where there is an administrator that is appointed to manage or to administer the fund, that administrator must also uh, meet certain conditions in terms of the Pension Funds Act. It also puts certain obligations on the employer, the participating employer. Firstly, the employer must pay contributions. And secondly, they must provide certain information to the fund. For example, payment schedules. So there's an obligation on the employer to pay all contributions. That is employer as well as employee contributions that must be paid to the fund. And if the employer does not do that, that will be a criminal offense. Secondly, it must also give info to the fund that the fund will need to allocate those contributions that are paid to the fund to the right members. Another piece of protection that is there is that the benefits within the fund do not form part of your estate, which means that if you should die while you're a member of the fund, your creditors cannot lay claim on any of the money that's in that fund. So this is the extent to which that one piece of legislation, the Pension Funds Act, protects you as a member. The other act, although it might not seem that it's there for your protection, is the Income Tax Act. So what the Income Tax Act says is that all pension funds must apply to the receiver of revenue for approval. And if that fund has approval, it will get certain tax benefits. As I stated in my previous videos, it will allow you to, as a member of that approved fund, to deduct up to 27.5% of your taxable income up to 350,000 Rand per year from your taxable income for all contributions that you make to the fund. Within that approved fund, there is no tax on your income or your investment income or interest income that you earn within the fund. So those are the benefits of, or one of the mechanisms, the approval mechanism that the Income Tax Act actually protects you as a member of a fund. The next act is the Financial Sector Regulation Act, and what this act does, it actually creates that framework that I referred to earlier, that regulatory framework that provides some of the protection to you as a fund member. So what this act did is it created two regulators. The one is the Prudential Authority and the other one is the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. So who are the regulators that play a role in your protection? As I said earlier, you've got the Prudential Authority, and what the Prudential Authority looks at is all, let's say, money related issues. Of a fund. For example, the Prudential Authority will ensure that there's enough money in the fund and the money is managed in a proper manner, that the fund will be able to pay all its obligations as and when they become payable. So that is what the Prudential Authority looks at how the money is invested in the fund, what are the financial risks, what is the financial soundness of that fund. So those issues will be looked at by the Prudential Authority. Your Financial Sector Conduct Authority will look at the conduct of all the role players in your pension or provident fund. For example, the role played by the trustees of the fund. Are they doing their job? Is the principal officer doing his or her job? What type of conduct can we expect from other role players, for example, asset managers or consultants to the fund? So all these entities or role players, their conduct is measured by and controlled by the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, who has the authority to take certain actions if some of these role players expose the fund to certain behaviors that are not acceptable. The other regulator that you need to take note of is the Pension Funds Adjudicator. Now, the Office of the Pension Funds Adjudicator is actually created by the Pension Funds Act. So if you have a complaint against your fund, if you are not happy with an issue, how they handle, let's say, your withdrawal benefit, or they didn't pay your withdrawal benefit, you must firstly complain to the trustees of the fund, see if you can sort it out, the problem out there. If not, you can complain to the Office of the Pension Funds Adjudicator, which then has the power to investigate the matter on your behalf. I hope that this gives you as the pension fund or provident fund member, now a little bit of less restlessness around the issue of whether or not my money is safe in the fund. Thank you.